While teachers' unions insist on not working, vaccines will be mandatory for students, when school comes back. So teachers can opt out of teaching, but students can't resist vaccines. Welcome to the new normal of progressive double standards. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start in crazy California, where the head of the nation's second largest school district says more than 600,000 students will be required to get the COVID-19 vaccine before returning to school in the fall. I go back to what I said in the teaser. It is a remarkable statement that these kids will be forced to take a vaccine that has really we have no way of telling what impact this is going to have on kids 3, 5, 10 years down the road. Nobody can tell you that we know. We're rolling this out. This is as much as a PSYOPs or operation as anything else. We've got to have a vaccine. We're going to people are rushing to make billions of dollars out of the latest vaccine. Oh, that's all well and good. But when you tell kids that they can't come back unless they have this vaccine. Meanwhile, you've got a situation where LA teachers get to decide when they will and will not teach. It shows you how askew this is, especially since it has been reiterated again and again and again, and just this week, that the young kids that we're talking about almost never get infected, and they almost never propagate the disease, the virus. Amazing.
So what we're specifically talking about is for Los Angeles Unified School District. They are the ones who have come out and said, hey, kids, we hope you get the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, it's not for sure, but basically the head of them, Austin Beutner, said that he hopes students will be inoculated by January of 2022. And they're saying this was like a briefing they had done. It was pre-recorded and all that. But he wanted to assure parents, if you're even a little skeptical, don't worry. If you don't want your kids to get the vaccine, then you can just stay with the online learning because that's doing so well. And therefore, you know what? You don't even need to go to school.
Do you really think that once the teachers decide they grace us with their presence again, do you really think they're going to allow online teaching still? What, twice? We're going to have to do it once and have to do it.
You started that statement out with, do you think? And yes, I do. And therefore, I know what the answer will be. So it's absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No.
Well, here in your own experience as a college professor, how willing have you been and excited to double tape?
That was the sarcastic way I asked you. So Beutner is his name?
Yeah, Austin Beutner.
Austin Beutner says, "Hey, you don't want to take the vaccine? Stay home." What Austin doesn't get is it's going to be about 40%. Of those 35 to 40%, I bet, of LA schools kids who don't want to take the vaccine and who want to work from home. I'll bet you it's that high. At that point, they will forbid it. And all this talk that they're doing now, well, we would prefer it. We want you to. Mm-hmm. The idea that they're going to let this slip doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is, again, it's going to be one of those things that you will have to do to go back to public schools.
And the thing is, because LA is one of the largest, if not the largest. Yeah. Is it second? First, second?
I think it's second.
In line across the country of school districts, as soon as Beutner says it, Carranza, the superintendent over in New York, and then in Illinois, Chicago, and all the major school districts, everyone, of course, is going to follow suit because bow down.
And once they've done it, guess what's going to happen to the non-major cities?
Yep.
Again, this is the kind of stuff I suppose that can get you purged from the internet these days. Question anything that the progressive left really believes in. Well, the progressive left really believes in mandatory vaccines, pumping this stuff into kids. And again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not personally. But in this case, it takes usually dozens of years, not just 1 year, to put together a vaccine. You've got these companies rushing to get this to market, not because they necessarily find this vaccine to be reliable, because there are billions upon billions of dollars to make. Can I ask you another sarcastic question?
Yeah, you
watching by 2022, a whole other year. Can you name one thing?
That's going to be our year. 2022 is supposed to be our year.
You got 4 years of Biden at least. They're going to be no you. Well, or him. Kamala.
There you go.
Can I ask you one more sarcastic question?
Okay, yes, go on.
Can you name one thing that Joe Biden's done or is doing or says he's going to do to actually combat the virus, other than to pretend it's a bigger deal than it is? Is there anything else? Because we kept hearing you had to elect Biden. And if there were no COVID virus, there would be no President Joe Biden right now. We keep hearing that we had to elect Joe Biden because, he looks serious and he wears his mask most of the time.
The only thing I could say, and it's not actually because Joe did win, supposedly.
Kinda.
Because he will be inaugurated.
Kinda.
Small businesses may open. And it's not because Joe Biden did anything other than be Joe Biden and not be President Trump. So in that sense, that's the only thing I can think of.
Trump wanted small businesses open.
No, I know he wanted it, but it would never happen because he was enough. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's not.
Because you've got a Democrat instead of a Republican in, now you can open up things, right?
Well, it's not even Democrat or Republican. It's anyone other than Donald Trump.
Now that you got somebody who's not, so the entire political establishment of this country decided we're going to screw the economy, not just so we don't give Donald Trump a win. And that's where we. In other words, there's not a single thing, Mom and Dad, Biden's going to do that Trump wouldn't have done. So if here we are in 2021, and you're one of those idiots. It's the only way I can phrase this. You're one of those idiots who thought it was wise to vote for Joe Biden because you were put off by Trump's Twitters and parlors and his moodiness. Now we have absolute confirmation with regards to your kids. This isn't about what's best for anybody except the progressive elite. Anything but Donald Trump. And you got it. Good. Hope you're going to enjoy what's going to happen in your public schools for the next 4 years.
And I just want to reiterate to Mom and Dad, too, when you talked about how the vaccine, they rushed this out, which hopefully is a good thing. We absolutely don't know what's going to happen a couple years from now. But the current vaccine out there is for only for people 16 years and older. And so they just started testing, I think it was back in October, for anyone who's 12 and older. Right. So we're still missing half of our kids. So we have no understanding at this point, no studies, nothing has truly come out understanding what's going to even happen to our kids, as you said, 3, 5, 7 years. And the studies are worthless unless there is the time to evaluate them. Yeah.
And when I said idiots, if you're somebody who voted for Joe Biden because that's who you like, because you're a Democrat, fine, knock yourself out. I'm talking to the soccer mom class out there, right? Whose only really beef against Donald Trump was he was too rough as his language, too crass. If that's your argument, right? Because how you not recognize the crass? Are you liking the crassness now of what AOC and the squad is saying? Are you liking the crassness now, soccer mom, in your little Mazda Miata, whatever the hell it is you drive? Soccer mom, are you loving the crassness now about how we got to deprogram 70 million plus Americans, right? Because Donald Trump. I hope the crassness now. If you're really feeling a good trade-off there.
Okay, just one slight correction. If you're a soccer mom, Mazda Miata
is that a tiny car?
Yes, it's like that would be the rich hoity-toity gets the Mazda Miata. Soccer mom gets what I drive now, a gold minivan.
A gold minivan driving moms who were just affronted by the crassness of it all.
Her name is
Betty. I hope
you
recognize, you put people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. What did Rush used to call him? Chuck you Schumer, I believe, was the word. You want to talk about some of the crass? How about the way Biden talks about people? Threatened to punch him in the face. That kind of stuff? Congratulations. Soccer moms of America, we herald you. This election's on you.
Well, of course, we have our children needing to be inoculated and the teachers just need to, I don't know, what's the word? Work? But they won't. They refuse. And now, because as we discussed, Joe Biden was elected and he will be inaugurated, poof, get back to work, teachers. Now it's okay. At least in Chicago, where Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the one who had to get her hair done because she's in the public eye and she deserves it.
And when you look at the haircut, you ask yourself,
looks like your haircut.
Exactly. This did not require a maskless visit in the middle of the night.
It's clear.
And
it
neither
did not.
Is that.
Very clear it did not. Well, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who doesn't care about the murders in her city, doesn't care about pretty much anything other than beating down the hardworking average American, she says, hey, we should open Chicago again.
All of a sudden.
Yeah. Poof.
Just
magic.
like that.
Yes.
Almost the day that the transition takes place, Lori says now, because as I've said many times in the Dr. Duke show, the real virus for the progressive left was Donald Trump.
Yes.
That's the virus. And they've inoculated themselves. They've found a way to lie and cheat and steal to get around it. And so the vaccine has been defeated.
Yeah,
now we can open everything that we couldn't open 1 month before.
So the city officials, including Lightfoot, says, hey, yo, teachers union, get your teachers back to work. or we're not going to pay them. And teachers unions are like, but why?
Right.
So the union has said since all the way back in March, it's unsafe. We can't go into the schools. It's not safe for our teachers, not safe for our students. So no. And then we did a story not that long ago, like last week. They all blend together. Maybe it was a couple weeks ago. How if we did open the schools, it would be racist and sexist.
Yep.
By the way. But now the union is saying that no teacher should be required to teach in person until all school employees have had the opportunity to get vaccinated or until the city's positivity rate falls to 3% and its rate of new cases falls below 400 per day. And they told the Chicago teachers that they would not show up to work, and this was last week, they would not show up to work on Monday if their demands were not met.
Yeah. So let's go back to this. March of 2020. March, April, May, June. Summer. September, October, November, December. That's 8 months of school that the public school teachers decided they were not going to show up for. And they got paid for it. They got paid for not doing it. Can you name another, outside of politicians, can you name another group of people who went 8 months by not doing their job and got paid for it? So, and now here they are, the unions, and Lori Lightfoot, who was behind the union when Trump was president. How dare Donald Trump, the Trump-a-virus, what president is he, 45? Is he 45?
Yes.
Trump-virus 45 instead of COVID-19. Trump-a-virus 45, excuse me. Trump-virus 45. He is gone now. And so Andrew Cuomo said, after 6 months of insisting that Donald Trump wanting to open the schools, anybody wanting to open the schools was a murderer. Now Andy Cuomo says it's imperative we get our kids back to school. And I just love the fact that the teachers unions now are like, listen, we were with you before. We're not with you now. And it shows you who has the power. Not the governors, not the mayors. The real power is with these ridiculous teachers unions.
So the union put out their statement and said, we're not coming to work on Monday. And Lori Lightfoot and the government said, if you don't come to work, you will be deemed absent without leave and will not be eligible for pay. Well, that Monday came and went, and 18% of them did not show up. And on that next day, Tuesday, the schools made good on their threats and shut the teachers out of their virtual classrooms. So the government's coming in and saying, no.
Now, listen first. The double standard that we have created in this country is appalling. Can you imagine what would have happened if it was a Republican mayor who did this?
Oh, yeah.
Or
absolutely.
a Republican governor, or the president of the
Call
United States.
those riots.
It would be riots. I mean, seriously, can you imagine if Trump found a way to force Chicago teachers not to be paid if they didn't come? This would be front page news. This would. And have you heard? Really, we're reporting this to you now. Have you heard much about this elsewhere?
Oh no.
Now because the liberals in charge. And hey, soccer mom, not driving a Mazda Miata because it's too small. Soccer mom, are you liking what you're hearing now? Right? That all those things we were concerned about, the poor teachers, we can't, now they got to go back to work, regardless of no vaccine. Isn't that nice? And who is it that's not paying them? Democrats. Do you care about that? No, you don't, soccer mom.
And what's going to happen is they're going to spin this whole thing because eventually these teachers will show up again. And instead of being, actually disciplined.
Sooner or later, they'll go back to work.
Or let go,
for
insubordination, any of that. They'll be welcomed with open arms because, it was a trying time and it was scary and we all need to get
and when
past
they go back,
this now together.
They treat teachers as if they were frontline workers in hospitals, right? The teachers are just in there. They're the real heroes. I'm tired of this. I was a 25-year teacher myself. I'm sick and tired of this veneration of teachers. You look at what's going on in the public schools with teachers. And look, this is not to say that there aren't good ones out there. This is not to say that there aren't teachers out there that are committed to this. But when we saw, right before from 6 months before COVID hit, they were walking out of classrooms for Red for Ed, for communist propaganda. They literally abandoned your kids, right? There were no virus. Trump virus had not set in yet. They weren't going to support your kids. They demanded raises. They walked out and got big raises before they went back to the classroom. And then COVID hit. And we see the bona fides there. We see that their own butts are what they're concerned about and not anything else. Especially, which I repeat this again, the science is on my side. Children of the ages taught by most of these public school teachers are too young to really get the disease. They don't get it and they don't transmit it. You are cowering in your basement over something that is really, really not scary, right? And you're doing it anyway. And you've gotten paid handsomely for doing it. We need to be at the point now where if teachers en masse stood up and fought for real things. Better standards, better literacy education, a rejection of this lying, cheating, disgusting socialist new 1619 curriculum. If you stood strong, teachers, you would get those things. When was the last time you can remember major groups of teachers standing up for, not for better teaching conditions, not for better money or retirement? When was the last time you saw teachers unite for anything that had to do with actually educating kids? I can't remember a time.
We may not have the groups of teachers, but we have at least one teacher, and she's standing up just so she can spray your kid in the face with some hand sanitizer. Her name is Christina Rezetar. She's 51 years old, and she's a high school teacher in Largo, Florida. Well, apparently she decided that she needed to spray an unnamed student with some Claire disinfectant aerosol spray because, as she allegedly told the investigators, the kids were not wearing their masks properly. So that obviously gives all the reason for her to spray.
Why not bring a Cottering brand to school?
Might as well.
And just burn their noses and mouth off? Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, seriously.
I mean,
a teacher's welfare matters so much more than everything else, doesn't it?
This is true. And just so you know, she did, when she went to court, she did tell the judges, by the way, I teach high school or math to learning disabled students at Largo High School. And she's apparently worked as a teacher for 21 years. I wonder what else she's done during that time. But according to the police report, she allegedly sprayed into the path of their faces and bodies. And the local media reported that she was escorted from the school and booked into the county jail, and that she appeared before the judge facing 4 counts of child abuse. So that's quite fascinating. Good to see that's what our teachers are doing. She claimed there's supposed to be video footage, but I think they got that one under wraps, so no one can find it. But
and these are disability kids,
learning disabled students for math,
kids, which means pretty much every
I don't know what it.
Pretty much every American student
reported.
might as well be a math disability kid.
Yeah, according to the judge said, I think I can fairly characterize this as a severely misguided attempt at discipline. It is a severely misguided attempt. Why would you ever think that the correction for a student not wearing a mask is to, you know what, I'm just going to pick this up.
Is it a sincerely misguided attempt at discipline, or is it a pissy little way of poisoning kids? Can we call that what that is?
We don't know.
By the way, Largo, Florida, did they lose their keys?
Did
they check under the couch?
I don't know.
Largo, Florida? Really?
Yeah. What's the best part of this, and this is what I'm sure if anything comes up from it, they're going to side on the side of the teacher, is when asked if she could hire a lawyer to represent her, she said, I will not be able to afford one on my teacher's salary. Poor thing.
Really?
Thing. Yeah, and if so, the charges, if they continue against her, it will go to trial.
Why is the school not providing a lawyer? Where's the teachers union?
Where is the teachers union?
Do they not have a teacher? Largo, because that's the point of having a union, right? Aren't they supposed to represent you?
I guess, yeah.
I guarantee you.
When it comes to actual counts of like misdemeanor,
I guarantee you,
abuse,
if instead of spraying them with a disinfectant, if she had just walked out of class and protest for her health, the union would be supporting
There
her.
you go.
I bet you.
That's where the misguiding comes in.
Buckolas.
That's where she was misguided in that. So no,
misguided.
She needs
discipline.
to be re-educated on that one. It's time now for some real education. Ken Kesey was an American novelist and an essayist. He was born in 1935 and died in 2001. And, during his time he experimented with some LSD and considered himself a link between the 1950s beat generation and the hippies of the 1960s. His most famous and influential book was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1962, which was made into an award-winning movie starring the one, the only, Jack Nicholson in 1975.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson before he became a parody of himself. So this week on the Dr. Duke Show, this is the inaugural week, right? This is the week that the reins of power transfer entirely to Democrats. Thanks again, soccer moms. And what we have here is a problem. For all of the instant classics this week, I'm going to do dystopias. A dystopia is the opposite of a utopia. A utopia is like a Garden of Eden, right? It's a perfect place. It's heaven. It's nirvana. A dystopia is an attempt by human beings to create the perfect a social organization only to have it turn into fascism, right? Dystopias. You think of great books like 1984 by George Orwell. You think about Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Every quote we're going to do this week is from a dystopia, and almost every one of them was written by left-wingers, by the way. Left-wingers, not right-wingers, with the exception of Ayn Rand, who we'll also have tomorrow, I believe. Left-wingers who are warning about what happens when human beings try to create the perfect world. It fails. And it's perfectly appropriate for the coming dystopia. America has entered a dystopia. We are now one of those novels. America, as we're about to see her, with all of this censorship and all of these calls for reprogramming 70 million plus people who happen to vote the wrong way, according to the left, you have entered dystopia territory. So it's only fitting for Instant Classic that we look at some of these left-wingers warning you that this day would come. So take a look at this quote from Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's a great book. It's about a man who's not insane, who ends up in a mental ward as a way of getting out of a harder jail sentence in a serious jail. He takes that. He opts for an imprisonment in a sanitarium to get some mental help as opposed to having to stay a long stay. His name is Randall Patrick McMurphy, played brilliantly by Jack Nicholson, by the way. And of course, it's a huge indictment of the way we treat the Orwellian way we treat mental patients. How almost every one of these so-called sociological goods, right, the new sanatoriums, they all turned out to be about power, just like the incoming Democrat party. It's not about fixing anything. It's about power and who should be allowed to have it and who should be punished for seeking it. And so McMurphy, who's not insane but is surrounded by people who have various levels of mental distress, comes to butt heads with Nurse Ratched, right, who is this tight nurse with her hair in a bun, just the perfect example of somebody who is bound. In fact, think Nancy Pelosi with a better smile, and you got Nurse Ratched. So not surprisingly, McMurphy and Nurse Ratched go hand to hand. And here's a great quote from Randall Patrick McMurphy. He says, talking about human nature generally, the flock, comparing all human beings to chickens, just as good as sheep, right? The flock gets sight of a spot of blood on one chicken, and they all go to pecking at it, see, till they rip the chicken to shreds, blood and bones and feathers. But usually a couple of the flock get spotted in the fracas. As they're killing the other chicken, they get splattered as well. Then it's their turn. And a few more chickens get spots of blood on them and get pecked to death, and more and more. Oh, a pecking party can wipe out a whole flock of chickens in a matter of a few hours, buddy. I seen it. A mighty awesome sight. The only way to prevent it with chickens is to clip blinders on them so they can't see. And that's a brilliant example for a man who has a father-in-law who for 20 years raised chickens. Is there a better metaphor for the lemming-like behavior, the demand for uniformity, the one-sided intolerance, bigotry, and censorship of the progressive left in this country? Because if there is, I can't think of it. Because you can't be too left nowadays. They've already purged the conservatives. Now they're coming after you, moderate Democrats.
Well, now we want to take a moment to show some love, little heart, to our Patriot Club members. Today, we're going to give a shout out to Alan from Kent, Washington, all the way out there. Alan, hello. Thank you for supporting us. And if you're a fan of the show, please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation to support the Patriot Club. And we're going to send you a life-altering tumbler. It's a true story. I don't lie. Now, all you have to do to sign up is visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us. And we're going to wrap things up today with our fun fact of the day, just as a little comparison with the whole, COVID-19 vaccine. The measles outbreak back in the U.S. here in 1950s, on average back in the 50s, there was a reported case load of 542,000 cases of the measles, okay? Fatality rates decreased sharply even before the vaccine came, and that wasn't licensed until 1963. So they, took the time and got the vaccine.
13 years to create a vaccine for measles, yep.
So there's that.
And that's our show for today. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, my friends, stay out of minivans with your soccer balls.